All right, so welcome everybody to Speechcraft information session. Just a quick heads up that I had put this together for Central Division. I'm Emma, I'm the SA Speechcraft coordinator. I will ask, because we are recording it, if you can keep yourselves on mute, unless you want to ask a question, then unmute and I can obviously answer it. What I'll do is I'll share my screen. And actually, before I do that, you can just do it with your hands up. But who's attended a Speechcraft course or have their clubs run one in the past? Yep. Okay. So mix. Yeah, it's usually a bit of a nothing for Rick.
Nothing. Got no idea about it at all.
Excellent. Excellent. So before I probably get into my little presentation here, just really quickly is Speechcraft is basically Toastmasters on steroids. It's intense. Toastmasters developed Speechcraft as a way for people to learn some basic skills in public speaking with the aim that they would then join a club and continue developing their skills. Which is all good and well, but it doesn't always have that outcome of them wanting to join clubs, but that's all right. You can either run it as 4, 6 or an 8-week program. Toastmasters give that, and they give a little coordinator's guide booklet, which you can then, use with your clubs to develop and expand upon. So I've done Speechcraft for a while. When I started Toastmasters, I actually did a Speechcraft course and loved it. So it was really good because I developed all my skills and then was able to basically power through with my speeches. And because you were doing it so intensely, it boosted my confidence. So I was actually a few steps ahead of those who joined our club and was still working through, this was with the old manual, still working through speeches, 1 to 10. So I've been involved with running Speechcraft courses, usually with my clubs, and coordinated them, and well, now I'm coordinating the state as well. So that's quite exciting too. All right, so today what we thought we'd do is we'd do a bit of a session about Speechcraft, and as I've alluded to at the start, it does have a bit of a central focus. We had gotten together with our division director and a couple of other key people from one of our main clubs, and we had a bit of a chat about Speechcraft and how we might be able to use it moving forward. Looking at clubs, there's quite a few who are sitting in the low figures, and earlier on we just heard before where one of the clubs is sitting at 12 to 13, and that seems to be the standard across. You have your strong clubs, and then you've got your clubs who are really struggling, and then those in the middle who sit around that, say, 12 to 15 mark. What a great opportunity to maybe tap into Speechcraft and see if we can use that to help grow our clubs and actually get some members out of it. And the other thing that brought about this session was the fact that Toastmasters had changed the funding rules, their fundraising rules. Originally, Speechcraft, the clubs could usually set their fees, and it was usually set across the state. Toastmasters have pulled in their fundraising fees and excuse me, and anyway, they've cut it right back down to about 90 US, and that equates to it's about 130 Australian dollars. Now, you and I all know that you can't actually run a Speechcraft course on that unless you're very lucky and you get all your facilities for free. That's another story. So let's chat through. I'm going to finally now share my screen. I would like to say that I'm going to stop talking now and let somebody else talk, but I can't. It's going to be me. So here we go. No, there we go. Okay. And from the beginning, what's it doing? There we go. So next slide. So So what I'm going to cover in this is basically what it is and why. I've just sort of told you about what Speechcraft is, where to hold it, what's involved, getting started, touch on marketing. I'll talk a bit about the 6-week outline and agenda and a bit of a plan of action. I'm not very good at keeping to script or following structure, so you'll find that I will jump around a little bit, but that's okay. We'll all cope together. So let's get through the main one, what it is and why. Well, I've alluded to what Speechcraft is before. It's public speaking skill set to help those who are feeling maybe a little less confident in getting up. You know, it's quite funny. I get a lot of emails from people saying that they're interested in Speechcraft and they want to come, and it feels as though they're just looking for that quick fix where you can pick up some skills and you'll have a really good, fun, good feeling time. And off you go into the outside world, and you sort of expect that magically these skills will appear and you'll be the best public speaker in the world. And what people tend to forget is that you need to be able to practice, because the only way that you're going to get better is to continually apply all of those newfound skills. So we've talked about that. Now, why host? There's a number of reasons why you can actually host Speechcraft. It's to develop others. And as Toastmasters, we love developing others. We love seeing people grow and expand and improve themselves. You host it because you might want to raise some funds for your club. So that's what you can do with Speechcraft. Use it as a fundraising event. You might be looking at raising funds for, now they're very clear on what you can use your funds for. So it's going to be educational related. You can't go off and pay your club, rental fees for the space. But it might be, especially in this day and age now that we're online, you might be looking at buying some educational equipment like a laptop or a camera system or a screen or a projector, something like that, that could then add value and benefit to the rest of your club with their presentation skills that they're doing. Now, I did have in here, obviously there's something just to think about is a bit later when you're looking at the marketing, is maybe getting some testimonials in there so people can actually go, oh, okay, it does actually really work. And look, when you survey the participants at the end of a 6-week course, they, you know, majority of them, hardly any of them have actually said anything negative about it, but they've all said that they've come away with some newfound skills, and which is great. And clubs too also find that they've benefited. Yes, you can get the purchase some items to help your club, but the other thing about Speechcraft is that it's not a one-man show, all right? It takes your club, and even tapping into club members from other clubs to help get it off the ground. It's a great way to develop your members in their public, in their presentation skills. So you're actually pushing them to achieve that next level. It can become quite complacent just getting up and doing your normal speech, say every fortnight or maybe monthly when you want to speak. But if you really want to push yourself as a presenter, start doing the Speechcraft course presentations, because it makes you think about it a bit differently, because you're not just presenting to your club members, you're presenting to people who are paid participants who are there expecting a certain degree and level and to come away with some skills. So the other point that I've got on here is the outline and structure. I mentioned before that it can either be a 4, 6 or 8-week course. Strongly advise don't go 8 weeks. It's so long. In this day and age, we're all looking for short things. 4 weeks is pretty good. We tend to do a 6-weeker here in South Australia. And I know a lot of other places tend to sit on that 6 weeks as well. If you can get it down to 4, I think you'll find it's even better. 6 weeks is still quite a bit of time. But basically, it's the nice thing about it is that it follows the Speechcraft manual booklet really well, going through all of the 6 speeches. So you're getting to know, the icebreaker, structuring your speeches, looking at body language, bringing in some humour, wrapping it all up, fixing it all a lot better. I said, I was probably the wrong word there. You know how you refine your speeches as you go along. Now, any questions so far? Feel free to jump in and ask questions. That doesn't bother me. Rick?
Yeah, so what I'm getting out of it, you mentioned that possibly can be used as a member, for a member to complete some of their levels, some of their projects.
Yes. Very, very true. Yes, you can actually mark a lot. So you can use some of the presentations in there. The club members can actually use it going towards them progressing themselves. So, yep, definitely. Because that's the other thing, your club members are giving up time to run these courses. They want to get something out of it. And, so you'll be able to have a look at it and work out what they can actually mark off. Now, what I might even quickly do is maybe quickly talk a bit more. I'll talk about the agenda in a minute. No, that'll be right. Let's talk about where we can hold it. So a bit later, I'll go through the actual agenda. We'll talk through some of the roles where you might be able to, where you can see where club members can actually develop themselves. So holding it is a very interesting question, especially right now with COVID and all of the restrictions that we've got. But in the normal ideal world, there's a couple of places you can hold it. So Speechcraft can be run either for the general public, where you have random people coming in, or you'll find that there are some corporate groups who will put their hand up and say, hey, we've got a new team, we have to do a number of presentations, but we're lacking some skills, we want to refine it, can you help us? And you can actually go and hold it at their organisation. So we've done a few of those in the past where we've gone to the organisation, they run it usually after hours and develops them. Sometimes you might get some of those people who've gone to the corporate ones actually signing up to become a member, or in a few cases, they actually have it where the corporate group forms their own club. Fantastic, that's great. But that's around club development. Now, in the normal world, you can hold them in your club rooms, or if your club rooms aren't big enough, you need to look at sourcing an alternate site where you might be able to hold it. I guess the things so I'll tell you what we do here in South Australia. A number of our clubs, obviously, they might use council rooms or a room in a hotel/pub or a community centre hall, where they'll be able to book it on certain nights over a set period, but might not always have access to it to run a Speechcraft course on a separate night at a different time. So what we tend to do here in SA is we book out the Education Development Centre that we've got in town. And obviously that comes as a cost as well. But it's a space then where the clubs can come, they can host their Speechcraft event, all the participants in there, you don't have to worry about parking. It's got connections to, PowerPoint, you can plug your laptop in, you can do a number of things. It's got tea and coffee facilities. So it actually looks really, really quite good. Now, with the changes to Toastmasters with their fundraising fees and that, and now, thanks to COVID as well, we're trying to look a bit differently at it. We sat down, we thought, this is actually a really good way for clubs to use Speechcraft in a way of getting people to come into their clubs. So in the past, when we held it, would be held at the Education Development Centre, but you would get participants that would come from all over Adelaide, okay? And they would all come to that one spot, they'd do the course, but it didn't mean that they were going to join that club, or if they were thinking about it, they think, oh yes, I'd like to join your club, but you're at Mawson Lakes. I actually live, say, down south at, let's say, Ranella, just for a bit of distance. It's not going to work because it's in the wrong area. So we thought about it as a division, had a chat, and thought, well, why don't we now really start to look at it and trying to get and empowering clubs to be able to deliver a Speechcraft course from their club rooms. And that would then mean marketing and targeting within the area. So rather than looking at, you know, like it was usually through me, I was the conduit, so I'd get all these people, participants would come in. No, it's actually getting the clubs out there and basically selling the program themselves. And that would then open up the door for clubs who aren't based, say, in Adelaide. And I guess we're looking at Victoria as well, who are on the screen as well, to think about, you know, you're all over the state. There's an opportunity that you can actually market and target in your own area, and that way be able to grow your membership base. The only challenge then is that the clubs then need to have a bit of a think about, obviously, if they can make their room available or how they're actually going to run it. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But the nice thing is that if clubs actually hold Speechcraft in their club rooms, it means that participants who are coming along get to see that environment, become quite familiar with the Toastmaster members of that club, and it becomes, say, their second home, rather than going to another spot and then having to integrate into another venue. I hope that made sense. Hopefully. I don't think getting to the point was really one of my strong parts in my speaking career. Okay, so hopefully I haven't lost anyone yet. What's involved? Well, there's a lot of things involved with Speechcraft. It's a bit like when clubs are trying to run their club contests and area contests and district division contests. There's a lot of things that happen in the background, a lot of bodies, a lot of commitment and time, that once you've done it a couple of times, it's, I don't know, it's a lot easier. It's probably
Excuse me, Emma.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Emma. Before you move on to that, going back to where to hold the meeting, we're not going to be holding meetings in our venue anytime soon. So I was thinking of having a Speechcraft course via Zoom. Would that work?
Yep. I've actually got a note on the sideline here to talk about maybe doing some online ones, because that's something that I'm really keen to explore as well. So yes, I've got that down as I might talk about, I'll put it as we can talk about at the end, if I go through all the bits, and then we can have some chats about how we might be able to do some online. That's all right. Yeah,
that's fine, thanks.
All right, good. Okay, so what's involved? All right, so you need your club commitment's a big thing. You'll need someone who's going to be the course coordinator, because without the driver, nothing happens at all. You all just sit in the car and basically go nowhere. You'll need your Toastmasters, and that could be either Toastmasters from your club or even tapping into Toastmasters from other clubs. I mentioned earlier on that we have a few clubs like in each of the states. We've got really strong clubs, and then we've got clubs who are sitting in that middle mark where they're like, oh, and then those who are, say, really, really struggling. And the nice thing is that you can actually marry up with another club and say, hey, we're delivering a Speechcraft course, but we don't have enough of a base or maybe presenters who'll be able to fill all of those roles. Can we tap into you, who's a very strong club, and can you come and offer us some support and assistance? And the great thing is that way we're obviously sharing the skills around, but we're also helping each other develop our own skill sets as well. I know I'm also an area director at the moment, and my clubs, we've got two who have a very strong relationship, and they work quite well together. And the other two are actually looking at forming a strong relationship. So I think that will obviously help with future events, you know, even where they want to do some educations together. Now, I mentioned the fundraising fee. Yes, there's a cost. It doesn't happen for nothing. I wish it did, but it doesn't. And unfortunately, I don't have a book anymore. All my books are gone. But to run the course, you actually have Toastmasters have a Speechcraft manual. You can't print them yourself. They come from America. They cost $250 American each. Just watch out for the postage and handling. Apparently it's astronomical. We bought some other stuff, some guest packs from America, and the postage was practically the same price as buying the little guest packs. It was huge. So just watch out for that. So you've got the fees associated with the manual booklets, and something that we do in South Australia is and you guys in Victoria probably do something similar, but we actually print off information sheets that relate to each week of the course that participants are on. So it's like little handouts. And rather than just giving people individual pieces of paper, so I'm talking from a face-to-face course right now, rather than giving individual pieces of paper, we print the whole lot and then ring bind it. So they have a professional looking resource document that complements their Speechcraft manual, and they can make their little notes in it, and it's got all those hints and tips in there, and they bring it with them. Now, if you're thinking, if we put our online hat on at the moment, yes, they still have to have their hard manual in front of them, but you can also reduce some of those costs down by not printing out, say, a ring-bounded booklet. You could actually email through those sheets each week so they could have a look, and then they can make their own notes online. So just, I guess that's more of cost saving and trying to be kinder to the environment, although we're burning up other resources and energy. But anyway, that's probably another story. I won't digress too much there. The other fees that come involved is if you're holding it, say, in a venue where you are able to do it face-to-face, and let's say restrictions ease up, and who knows where we're going to go in the future with COVID, but you'd need to look as if you'd had any rental fees, you know, or associated with it, what the cost would be of hiring, say, a venue. If you have a club rooms where you don't have to pay any rent, fantastic, that is fantastic. But if you do have to pay rent there, then you need to be able to cover those costs, because you can't run a Speechcraft course at a loss, all right, because that'll just hit too much onto your into your club's pockets. The other part, they're about the main finances. The other thing that we tend to do when we do a face-to-face is, because we don't stop for a meal break, but we do stop for like morning tea, but in the evening. So evening tea. So having just some little nibbles there, just to be able to break it up. So you might have some tea and coffee and say little cakes, or I don't know, little finger food wraps or something. Yes, I know in this world we can't have any shared food, but if you're thinking further down the track. Now, the other thing to just
Emma, can I ask a question? Someone suggested that what could be done for Speechcraft is to attach them to a normal club meeting date or time, and therefore have like a 1 hour session before a normal meeting, which is Speechcraft, and then the participants could then actually attend the actual club meeting, which would immediately follow the Speechcraft course. Is that something being...
Oh, that's an interesting one. We can talk about that when we get to the agenda part.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks for raising that, Nick. Yeah, and apologies to everyone else when I keep saying about doing it on in your club rooms. What I'm actually saying is hold it on your club night, so your club event night. Actually, I might talk a bit to that now, Nick, because you've raised it. Look, Speechcraft is set at it's about 12 hours all up. Okay, if you go by the Toastmasters little booklet thing, it comes up to about 12 hours. We do ours for a little bit longer because we throw a lot more information and resource into it. So we probably go for about 3 hours. So it's thinking about your Speechcraft course and what you actually want to deliver in it and get through. And when I show you some of the agendas, then you can sort of go, oh, okay, there's a little bit of work involved there. What we did point out when we were chatting to some of the clubs was actually saying to them, hey, you could run Speechcraft on the night of your club, all right? And that might mean that you, say you do a 6-week program, your club meets fortnightly, 3 of your club meetings for that over those 6 weeks would mean they'd be, say, dedicated Speechcraft, all right? And that's where your club members would be able to still be able to present and do their things and get marked off on whatever pathway they're actually doing. You can tie it in that way. The other thing is that you can actually hold it on a separate night to your club night as well, so that it's strict Speechcraft and it doesn't impact your clubs or your club member development. Nick raised the point there of maybe trying to do an hour beforehand and then getting people to stay on to join the club part of it. That's fine too. You can explore that. It's just that you need to be able to meet all the requirements that Toastmasters have in their manual to make sure that you've covered the basic aspects that need to be delivered. Gut feeling, Nick, I'm thinking an hour might be a little bit short there, but there's always that option to sort of explore and see how you can sort of be a little bit creative in it. So but we'll talk about it. I've got it on here, 1 hour with online and club. I need a secretary. Okay, so, and the other part, I'll just quick finish off with what's involved. Participants' expectations. Look, people paying for a course, they're going to have an expectation that it will be delivered at a professional level. Okay, so that's where you need to think about who you're going to be using to assist you in your club with delivering it. All right, you want presenters who are pretty good and will know their stuff and the topic that they're going to be presenting on. But that doesn't mean that you then have to exclude members who are, say, in the earlier stages of their development. No, there's opportunities for them to actually get involved as well. And it's also a great way to develop their skills. So you can put them in the role of, say, timer, or have them run as Toastmaster as well. And then you can build them up to becoming an evaluator and then delivering some of the smaller presentations as well. So there's lots of opportunities in there. I usually say about 10 participants maximum for a Speechcraft course. You can do it at 12, but you're pushing it a bit because you've got to get a lot of their speeches through and you've still got to get all their evaluations in as well. If you go less than 10, say you hit about 8, that's okay. Go anything less and it's really hard because then you'll find you'll have the number of Toastmasters outnumbering the number of participants, which can become a little bit top heavy and a bit intimidating. So there's some there. Getting started. What? Oh, Rick, question. Yes.
Sorry, just with the costs and that. Oh, yeah. So what do you charge normally for people to come and do it?
So if it's 90 US, it's in probably about 130 is the baseline that actually we should talk about finances now. So about 130, say Australian, that you could charge each. Now, before you actually go and setting your fees and that, you'd need to work out how much it's going to cost you to run the course. Do you get your rooms for free? Fantastic. That cuts a lot of your costs down. What are the costs of getting the manuals from overseas and including the postage? That's quite important. And looking at the overall costs, and then obviously minusing it from 130 per person. And then you'll see how much finances you actually have left at the end. If you find that you're going to run at a negative, Toastmasters have put it in that you can apply to them prior to all of your advertising and even looking at running a course, but you can actually apply to them to say, hey, we're going to run a course, but we don't get the rooms for free. This is how much it's going to cost us. This is what we'll end up with at the end. Do we have permission? So you actually have to seek permission from them.
And is there a fee that our club has to pay to Toastmasters International?
No. Gosh, I hope they don't apply that. That'll be awful. No, not aware of that. No, on I just realised I've put it got it on the coffee table over there, but the protocol, what is it, 8.2, I can send the link in it way, but it actually outlines what you can charge. Okay, so the basic charge, and then if you're going to go over your costs, this is how you can apply for exemption.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
And is there like a standardized cost so that your club's not charging more than club 5 kilometers away or 10 kilometers away, or you know what I mean?
That's a good one, Rick. That's a good question that you've thrown out there. Yep. So that's the problem that it then raises is so in the past we were able to set a fee for the state that was a standard fee, and it got charged regardless of the club, regardless of their location. Now with these changes with Toastmasters, you run the risk that a club who would normally get, say, their room for free would be able to run it, say, at the 130 Australian dollars per person. And there could be a club, as you said, 5K down the road, who don't get their club rooms for free, and they might have to charge, say, $260 per person. And then you got to think, well, how are you gonna get around that? So no, there is no basic standard fee. We also run the risk that Toastmasters might turn around and say, we'll try and get a venue for free, but then that obviously puts a lot of additional, I guess, work and emphasis on the clubs to then go, well, is it worth us actually having to run it? So it shouldn't be hard. Speechcraft should be a course that's easy to run. You do it, you develop your members, develop the public, and hopefully you get some new members out of it. It should be that nice, I guess, all-round warm, fuzzy feeling, but doesn't always happen. So yeah, but that's where you could also then go, okay, I know that Club X down the road is going to do one. We're Club Y. Why don't we try and join together? We're only a few Ks apart, and see if we can do something that'll be beneficial for both of us. And then that sets that standard and expectation moving forward. Rather than just running one club, one Speechcraft course per year, you could actually run several in conjunction with that other club, and then split the costs that way. So it's trying to think.
Yeah. Thank you.
So getting started, a great thing to do is to attend a course that's actually happening. And right now there aren't any that are happening, which is a bit of a pity. But the nice thing is that if you or your club is new to delivering Speechcraft and you just want to refresh your skills and sort of think what's actually involved, what's happening, gosh, go and help out with the current course. Or even find out if you've got a club nearby that's going to be doing one. Get in there and see if you can help out. One of my clubs here locally in Adelaide, or not Adelaide, I should say South Australia, because they're north of Adelaide, we're looking to run a Speechcraft course, which is now being put on hold because of the restrictions that had increased around the state. And what they had done is they put feelers out to, because a number of their members weren't as skilled with some presentations, but they put their feelers out to bring in people who were skilled presenters. So, and also picked up some of maybe their junior Toastmasters to help fill in those smaller roles so that they can develop their skills and get exposed to it. I've talked quite a bit about experienced and less experienced clubs assisting, merging together. I know this all sounds nice on paper, and it does. It's fantastic. It's just trying to get it up and running. It's always the challenge. Use your skilled Toastmasters, tap into them. Try and share the love around a bit, that you don't create a bit of burnout on your experienced Toastmasters, because you'll find that there'll be this core group that sits up here, and everyone will want to tap into them. So see if you can sort of share it around, and you'll have your preferred persons as well. and tap into your state coordinator, which is me for South Australia. I'll talk through any scenario. I always like to look for a solution. I don't believe that no's always the answer. I always think that there's another way of doing things that still fits in with all the rules. But yeah, tap into Kevin, have a chat. He's got obviously a number of ideas as well for Victoria, Tasmania. What have we got here? Marketing was our next one. That's what it all comes down to. We can do all of this work in the background, as I sort of like to think of it also as like being a stage manager for a production, do all this background work. But gosh, if you don't have a target audience, it's not going to go anywhere. They need to think about who your target audience is going to be. Are you going to go for the general public, or are you going to go for a corporate team? Because there's nothing to stop you from actually going into a corporate group and developing up a team there. They'll either then form their own club, or some of them might come and join you, but there might be that nice benefit. So I think it's having a look at, I guess, your environment, the demographics that you're sitting in. Last year, one of my clubs sat under me was out at Mount Gambier. And they said to me, oh, we want to run a Speechcraft course, which they had in the development stages for earlier this year, and then COVID hit. So all the plans just went to pots there. So I said to them, I said, well, we'll think about who's your target audience. Are you going for the general public, or are you going to go and approach some of the corporates? Who are some of your big groups out there? Who could you tap into? They've got like the forestry industry out there. That's a big group. They have, who could you advertise through? So for example, there's regional development. Australia have their branches located, I definitely know, across South Australia because I'm connected with them all. But you can actually advertise through there, see what's actually happening. So the local TAFEs, the universities, you've got your students who are coming through, even your postgrads who need to obviously develop your skills. So you need to think about, who's in my area that we could tap into. Your smaller, your more regional towns, well, what do we have out here? Council members, do they need developing? I always think of cars, thanks to Carl with his BMW spills that he does, but thinking about your sales force, just thinking about those different people, those that actually want to develop themselves. We were talking earlier about the online component of Speechcraft, trying to do it that way. Yeah, online. And we're all online, and people are looking for how they can be a lot more comfortable talking and presenting. Now, you'd think that with online, you've got a screen. I can see you all, you can see me, but it's very easy to just hit the mute and the stop video button and no one can see you or hear you. It's fantastic, but you can still sit there and still perspire and still worry about what you're actually going to be saying, and if you're going to get your message across, and if you're still going to have that impact through the screen. So that's another target audience, is our online audience. But it's just sort of sitting down and sort of going, okay, who is it? Who are we going to target? How are we going to go about this? How are we going to market it? And I guess the nice thing about, what we're looking at with SA is putting the Speechcraft back into the clubs, is that it's drawing upon all of those roles in your exec team. You've got your president, you've got your VPE, so this sits very nicely with education, but you've got your vice president of marketing, your marketing stream, then you've got your public relations, how you're going to promote it out. So you can actually, your treasurer for the finances, so you can actually tap into all of those exec roles. It's really exciting, but it can be exhausting as well at the same time, but it's still very exciting. So how will you reach them? What are you going to sell it to them? The benefits of attending or doing this, thinking about it. What do we say in Toastmasters? That what's in it for me? So it's just sort of things to think about there. Oh, and now I've clicked onto the 6th week. Now, does that sound okay, sort of, to everyone? I'm getting nods. No one's disappeared or anything, which is good. Okay, now I've talked about a bit of a program, and I'm going to step you through what we've been using with SA, just our 6-week program outline. Okay, so course length, normally we do it over 6 weeks, and it would go for about 3 hours. So it's fairly long and intense. Now you can actually, the basic one that Toastmasters do, they take about 2 hours. They do some speeches, they'll do some evaluations, there'll be a little bit of an educational in there. But what we tend to do is sort of give them a lot more, the participants who are coming in. So we'll show them some videos, we'll sit down, we'll analyse, say, a really good presentation. So we get them to look at it and think, well, what do you think was really good about this? Where could they have improved? Or what was not so good about that? So we show a video that's called The World's Worst Speech. And it's quite funny, but it's pretty bad. So the nice thing with the 6-week program I mentioned earlier is that you can cover all those basic 6 speeches. All right, so Toastmasters on steroids. We still go through the icebreaker, structuring your speech so you can get to the point, starting to incorporate body language, so using that stagecraft, bringing a bit of humour into it. I have to warn people at the start when I speak that I think I'm funny, which I shouldn't have to do, but I still do it anyway. And then looking at how you can also structure your speech so you can use different words to have more emphasis or add more meaning to it and have a bit more of an impact. And then our final speech is usually pulling it all together and refining what you've done over the previous 5 weeks. The nice thing is it has, as I said, there's the evaluations in there. And because as we all know, we all like to evaluate so we can improve ourselves, but improve others. And the great thing is that if you've got your Toastmasters in there, they can be developing their skills as an evaluator as well. And the great thing is they could be evaluating, say, up to 3 people in an evening. Wow, fantastic, especially if you're coming up to competition time. So another little bonus there as well. Because it's such an intense program, it also reinforces your time management skills as well. Okay, so your Toastmaster needs to be pretty much on the ball to keep it actually moving, and your timer as well. We're lucky with South Australia. We don't believe in reinventing the wheel or making life too hard for the clubs. So I've actually got a set of templates that I can actually give to clubs, and a bit of a coordinator's guide where it steps through what happens each week. Now I'm sort of kicking myself that I don't have another computer going at the same time, so I can bring up several things, but I'll pull up one of my documents in a moment. But it just gives a lot more information, because I tend to find when I talk to clubs about doing Speechcraft, they just go, but where do we start? What do we actually do? And yes, you could be given the coordinator's guide from Toastmasters, but do you know, to be honest, it's just nice to be able to sit down with someone and go, talk me through it. We've all got so much going on and it can feel so overwhelming. You don't always have to start from the beginning. You can have a driving instructor in the car with you. He can go through the basics and then off you go. Does that sound so that's where I'm going to link back into Nick's comment about the weekly trying to bring it into a club session where you maybe do an hour beforehand with Speechcraft. Yep, you can actually rejig it around a bit. It might even be that actually, Nick, I'm just even thinking because if you can't always get, say, 10 participants, because that can be a bit of a challenge sometimes, but say you've got 5 or 6 people who are keen, I think that would work in quite nicely. They could come in, they could have an intensive session beforehand, so where they can practice their skills. Because the other thing that I forgot to tell you all about, because it's not my favorite thing to do, but it's table topics. So we always start our Speechcraft sessions with an impromptu, because normally a lot of these people too are coming in because they're like, I've got to go for an interview, I need to talk off the cuff, but I'm lacking the confidence and the skills to do so. So we always throw the impromptus into it as well. But you could have that nice intensive for an hour where you could go through, say, all the basics, all the training, give an educational in there, and then invite them to come into the club part of it so they can see how you know, with that ongoing practice and commitment, that you two could actually develop your skills as a public speaker. And then they go, oh, I'm not the only one in the room. So Nick, I'm starting to have some ideas here, which is a bit scary. So I'll talk to
me.
Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
I actually like the idea of it being incorporated in a club, in that it really then does become a membership drive activity rather than just a quick way of getting some skills and then walking away and never having to do with Toastmasters again. And it also means that if you can actually then use the current venue that of your club, you can then reduce your costs. Because the sad thing about what Toastmasters International have done is that they've actually made this very difficult to become to manage the finances of running Speechcraft, because the $90 US is not a huge amount of money to run it, and you've got materials, you've got venue costs, catering, etc., and it becomes quite expensive. So it just means that the old days for us of actually going down to Highmarsh and booking out a room at Highmarsh and doing it there, I think those days are almost gone.
Yes, yeah, definitely, yep. And I guess now we have to sort of pushes us to think a bit outside the square. And the nice thing with, COVID has had its own challenges, but I think a lot of good has come out of COVID as well, which is just looking at how, we're a survival race and we're out there to survive, but also how we can adapt and not let something like a virus sort of stop us completely in our tracks from developing ourselves. And I've been sitting here thinking a bit about the online component and talking to Evelyn at the start and Annie. And, oh, sorry, Jennifer, you've got your hand up. Yes.
I think that having Speechcraft before the meeting is just one of the most wonderful ideas that I've ever heard come out of Nick Zister's mouth. One of the problems with running a Speechcraft, particularly going to Hindmarsh, is that it's another night out of a person's life, and it can be very difficult to get Toastmaster members who are willing to commit another extra night for 6 weeks. Whereas if you were to have the training, say an hour before the meeting starts, I think that members would be much happier to come in just an hour earlier, because they're coming to the meeting anyway, and an hour earlier. And I think that it would be a really, really win-win situation for everybody.
Mm. Yes, Jennifer, yes, you raised a really good point there. It can become another night of someone's week, and we're running out of time. We're all busier. Was it do more with less? So I'm liking that. And the other thing I'm thinking about is that with Evelyn, talking to Evelyn and Annie about the online component, I'd love to be able to explore an online Speechcraft course and get it up and running. And there would be a way of sitting down and sort of tailoring it so it could be delivered via online. My only problem, I was chatting to Evelyn at the start, is hand on my heart, I'd feel so bad charging somebody for an online one. However, people are doing it out there. They are charging for things online. I look at some of the programs that we put our hands up for. It could be $30 or $40 to cover a registration fee. But the other thing is that if you do an online program, you still need to give them the manual, and that still costs money, because they don't have a soft version of it. And I know no one's actually asked this at the moment, but there were whisperings, and it has been going on for a couple of years now, but Toastmasters are looking at revising Speechcraft as well. So who knows? Surprise, things could look a lot different in the next year or two as well. But I'm always one who believes not to put the car in park until we actually see what actually comes along, and just to keep cracking on with it, basically. So Annie, yep.
Yeah, so the manuals, the Speechcraft manuals, are they still exactly the same ones from the old system? They are.
Yep.
So would that transfer into a Pathways project, like your Pathways level 1? Because if
No, you're asking if you get credit for any of those speeches?
Yeah.
Apparently you can get credit for one speech.
Right.
Yes. So, yeah. Yep.
So the courses don't marry up really then, do they?
No, I think they're looking at things, but I have no idea what they're looking at and what will come about. And Evelyn?
Question.
Yeah.
So just, I'm new to this Speechcraft, so excuse me if I sound completely ignorant. However, if I understand it correctly, does this mean that every time we do a Speechcraft course, online or otherwise, we have to purchase the pack from Toastmasters International? Is that correct?
Yes.
Or can you just use the one you've had before?
No, you have to purchase a whole new pack, because the booklets, so basically it's just purchasing the booklets. Toastmasters International have a pack that consists of a few other things in there, but you'll find clubs will tend to just purchase the booklets, the manuals that is, and hand them out to their participants, and off you go, because they formulate their own. Hence why we've formulated our own agendas, so we can just keep rolling it out.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, every time you have to buy, yeah, because those books go to the individual and they use them and you never see them again. Yep.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Oops. Oh, and I was just trying to click on someone to put something in the chat. Oh, excellent. Thanks, Chris. Yes, you've just put a link in there to the starter kit for Speechcraft. Yep.
Okay.
So you can always have a look at that. It's nothing to stop you from using it. It's a guide. Well, we still have to stick with the rules of Toastmasters, which we can do. Now, I think I've just clicked onto my next one, which I've sort of chatted about with the course agenda. I'll just see if I didn't miss anything. Now it's not going back. What are you doing? I'm not sure where hold on. There we go. Okay, we didn't miss anything there. All right, so course agendas. Basically, so each night will basically consist of speeches. We always go to a speech, and that's all the participants. We put them all through. We always do impromptus. That's a nice warm-up session, and we use the methodologies so they get used to practicing them each week. We had one of our Toastmasters, another Nick Castelline, did a presentation for us where one of our club officer trainings, and he said, you know, you use your impromptu speaking, so the structure of that, which feeds into your speeches where you practice things, and then it feeds back in. So it was a cyclic motion, it was. And so that's why I always love having the impromptus there, because it goes through the basics, you get to think about it, and then you put that back into your speech and then bring it back around again. We always have workshops in educationals, because we're always looking at the skills that, so for example, if we're talking about body language, so week 3 speech with body language, in week 2 we would do an educational where we'd say, okay, next week you're going to make a speech and you're going to incorporate body language. So let's talk about body language, how it can add emphasis to or impact to your speech, how it can make it even better, what not to do, you know, moving with purpose, or just sitting there having a bit of a jiggy dance. I remember one of my speeches, apparently I looked like John Travolta at the end of it because I couldn't stop moving. Very bad. And then obviously we also put the evaluations in there as well. So it follows that similar structure every single week. And that way your participants get to know what's happening. Let's click onto that. I did warn you that I'd be talking, jumping around a bit, everything would cross over. So when I go and talk to clubs, I like to summarize up with a bit of a plan of action or a plan of attack on how we might be able to move forward. So in summarizing it, it's basically, if you want to do Speechcraft, it's that club commitment. It's making sure that you've got the Toastmaster skills, you can identify your gaps, be able to bring it all together, you know, marry up with another club, tap into them. You know, people feel quite, I guess, honoured and humbled if you ask them to help out. You say, I need your help, I want your skills. And you'll find a lot of people will say, yep, sure. Think about your locations. Yes, we've discussed over the top a bit of the online component as well. And think about the dates or when you'd actually hold them. Do you hold them on a club night? So like I said, it's club commitment, but that's got to be up to your individual club. All right. So, because if you don't have your whole club on board, or at least, you know, well and truly over 50%, it's going to fall over anyway. So some club members might say, actually, I prefer not to have it on my club night because I don't want it taken away from this. So that's something that you as clubs would have to talk about. Oh, Chris has put his hand up. Yes, Chris.
When we talk about a commitment and the people needed, how many experienced Toastmasters would be needed versus low level?
Yep. No, good question, Chris. Yep, forgot about that to talk about the number of people. So there's mixed preferences out there. Some people like to have one Toastmaster per participant. You run the risk that not all your participants rock up on the night, and then it's too Toastmaster heavy, and you end up swamping the participants. With all the Speechcraft courses I've been involved with, we tend to sit at about probably 4 to 5 experienced Toastmasters. All right, that comes down to, I guess, who your group is and you know, who you're drawing upon from skills wise. So that's what we tend to sit with, and that way you're still able to work the room in the break and have a chat to them, touch base where people are at, and if people want to talk to you separately, they can still do that as well. But about 4 to 5, and that can still include, say, a couple of juniors holding some of the roles as well.
Good, thanks.
Okay, yep. But if a club wants to have 1-for-1, they can do that as well. That's not a problem. They've just got to manage the roster, not me. Thinking about the dates, you know, when you want to hold it. Actually, dates is an important one, because if the course is going to cost your club a bit to run, because you've got to pay, say, for venue fees, because, you know, we're living in the world now where we're actually able to do a lot of these things in person. Actually, and I guess SA, we can do it in person. It's just we need a bigger space because of the 1.5 metres squared between each person. So those costs obviously start to go up. But if you are looking at your dates and you know that the cost of the course is going to be greater than what you could charge based on the Toastmasters International 90 US per head, you need to write prior to Toastmasters and get pre-approval and exemption from that fee, and actually put forward the fee that you intend to charge. And that's before any of your marketing goes out. So it's really having to sit down and think long and hard about it. But look, it probably feels like a lot of work now, but I think once you've actually done it once and you've worked it out, and maybe where some of your barriers are and how you can get through it, then you've got that in place. Then you can do your next Speechcraft course as well. So look at Speechcraft not just as a one-off thing, say for the year, or it could be like a cyclic thing. So I mentioned earlier, is you can do a Speechcraft course, see how it goes, you're going to get all your pre-approvals if you need them, do it, develop up your team, and then go, okay, this worked really well, this didn't work so well, so with the next Speechcraft course we are going to change. And you're constantly evolving and growing your club members and your team in delivering Speechcraft. Obviously you need one of your club members to be the course coordinator for that course. You need a driver. If you don't have a driver, the car doesn't go anywhere. I've seen other clubs pick a course coordinator, and I contacted them. I said, are you guys still doing this? And they went, yeah, our driver left. So there you go. Yep, and thinking about your participants, 10's a good number. And now Toastmasters do have some flyers available on their website. The one that I've got up on the screen right now is something that we developed for South Australia, because the flyers that they did have back then were not suited to our target audience. Let's just say it might work in one country, but it doesn't work in this country. So we developed our own, and we had to go through the Toastmasters approval process for that. So that actually is the end of my presentation. I talk for hours. I should have warned you all at the start. I'm going to stop sharing and allow for some conversation. Also, I'm going to look for some additional materials of mine as well that I might be able to show you. Did that sort of help? I don't know. I'm just a bit worried that... Rick, question? Yep.
Yeah, so one thing that comes to my mind is in planning and preparing to run a Speechcraft course, how long in advance do you suggest we start? Is that like 12 months ahead, 6 months, do it next week? What do you reckon?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, good question there. Okay, so with one of the clubs that I'm a member of, we tend to look at planning our Speechcraft courses for the following year around like later this year. So around November, or probably December, January, would be thinking about all the club dates for next year. And then putting it in, so that would lock in all the dates. However, getting not participants, but getting helpers in, so Toastmasters to fill those roles, you'd be looking at a good probably 4 to 6 weeks in advance lead time to get that all up. But now that things have changed a little bit, if you don't already have that funnel of participants coming to your club, you might actually have to start thinking about it a good 6 to 12 months in advance. So it just depends on the club. For example, Mount Gambier, when I met with them, they were looking at a good 6 months of 6 to 8 months actually, of sorting themselves out, looking at their target audience, marketing of it to see if they could get the number of required participants.
And I guess I'm thinking within that time frame too, you've got to allow for manuals to come over from the US.
Yep.
So there's whatever that might take, a number of weeks or whatever.
Yeah, I'd allow a couple of weeks with postage. Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Let's see if I can bring up my... I'm just trying to see if I can bring out my course coordinator guide that I had. That doesn't quite look like it. Any other questions or things that I could show you?
One thing I'm really keen to know about at the moment, Emma, is which clubs are really thinking about this and haven't been able to find the collaborators, because I'm very keen, have been for many months, and we've had to delay, and we don't have that many skilled resources, but we can certainly collaborate with other clubs, whether that's online or in person. And I'm sure there's a number of clubs that have venues available that are effectively free. So, and I'm thinking in the case of the universities where I am, our venue doesn't cost us anything. And so if we were running a Speechcraft course that was run by our club officially, we can share that with other clubs, even if they're making the most out of it. It's still leveraging the venue for membership growth and possibly revenue.
Yeah, no, good question, Chris. So the clubs that have actually put their hands up to me is, well, yes, your club had indicated an interest there. Westlakes are also thinking about holding a club at some Speechcraft course at some stage. Northern Stars, who are out at Gawler, are also looking at it, and they actually had a corporate one up and ready to go, but the restrictions tightened up a little bit. So they've had to put that on hold, and they were hoping to run one now and then subsequently another one next year. And that would be within close to their catchment area as well. So they're the clubs that have definitely let me know that they're looking at running the Speechcraft course. I'm just thinking, Chris, with your area, I mean, you've got Flinders, I mean, Adelaide, because I can see Nick Schuster online. Adelaide, who meet at the Archivar, a very strong club, and that'd be good to tap into. And actually, you're a member of them too, aren't you? Yes, sure. Yep. But also Southern Cross out at Ranella. That'd be good to tap into. They too are a good, strong club. Actually, they indicated they had been thinking about trying to run Speechcraft courses as well, which that was earlier on when I chatted to them. So I'd be looking at that, and no one's indicated to me that they're actually running a Speechcraft course. I've got a gut feeling that some clubs will probably not run it with the changes that Toastmasters.
I guess the appropriate thing is to reach out to my area coordinator, Stephen Archer, and get him to put it out there to Glenelg and Speaker's Corner and Westpac, and because they're the actual physically closest.
Yes, yeah. Good. I've just pulled up my speech. Is anyone interested in seeing my little Speechcraft course coordinator guide?
Yes.
It's got the word scribbled draft all over it because
Show that.
I'm always fixing things up. So this is something when I go and see my clubs that I say to them, hey, here's your, no, don't do that. No. Right, okay, don't know what it's doing there. What are you? There we go. No, I'm trying to make it a full screen. I feel as I'm talking to my I call my dog when I'm saying, no, go there. There we go. All right, so it's full screen. I can actually see what I'm doing now. So I tend to do is give them a bit of an overview, and I say, this is what it is. We give them some resources on the USB. And a bit of obviously a lead up. Look, as you state coordinators, we sort of do need to know that it's happening. Oh, Chris, you've got your hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Bill? No? Okay, that's right. I'm trying to keep an eye on the screen as well at the same time. So we talk about a few things, really reinforce about being familiar with the course. And then, oh yeah, I've got that nice little blurb in there about COVID-19. Don't forget that. So whatever requirements are happening. Also talk about, some of the loan equipment that's available. So we're lucky. We've got a club called Leadership SA in South Australia, and you can actually ask for use of some of the equipment if you're holding it face to face, and that just sort of helps. But if you're going to look at incorporating into your own clubs, you've already got a lot of all of that stuff. But the nice thing is having little place cards and name tags means that you can make your participants feel a lot more, I guess, integrated, a bit more special. I also go over with them about that lead up to the course. So Rick, you're asking about, how much leeway time you'd need to prepare it. Now this is being devised on all the participants basically come through my channel. So they tend to contact me, and then I put them into a group, and usually I'd have to find a club who would end up wanting to hold a Speechcraft course, and that can always be a challenge in itself as well. As long as we always have clubs putting their hands up for it. Organising your Toastmaster helpers. So we give them a bit of a template that shows them how you can assist with planning, so it lists it all out. Give them copies of all of the agendas. So we talk about the educational workshops in there. We'd also revise some of our PowerPoints. So we've got that consistent message. So, Rick, you mentioned before about earlier about the charging of the fee and everything. The other thing is that making sure that if clubs are going to be delivering something, that it's delivered with a consistent method and it's consistent as possible content, so that people don't veer too much. So it still follows the Toastmaster structure, but we can use a lot of materials that still look the same, like the educationals with the PowerPoints, and so that if people refer it on as word of mouth, then they can go, oh yes, I saw that as well. And if you've got presenters helping across the different clubs, they too are familiar with it as well. So it makes it a bit easier. You don't have to learn something new each time. Educational workshops, I talk about your print materials, getting organised, even like coming down to like name tags, organising obviously refreshments, checking the COVID rules, and the most important thing is making sure that you've got your certificates at the end. There's a little bit of an evaluation form. I don't hold too much to those things. And then I talk about what happens on each night of the course as well. you know, what actually happens on the night, you know, making sure you're there, keeping it running, you know, keeping it smooth. Oh, the other thing I've meant to say is, you know how I said we print out some handouts to support for the participants so that they can write their cheat notes in there as well. You know, got their little separate resource. We've got an exact duplicate of that for the course coordinators. So whoever's actually presenting on the night have a booklet as well. And we've tried to incorporate some hints and tips in there. So we're always obviously helping others improve as well. On the final night, we always talk about that. So always make it a little bit special. And I actually get them to fill in a bit of a Speechcraft report. And we've got the link there to the fundraisers. Oh, here are the fundraising rules. Here, let me see if this will open up. Gone somewhere. And someone has put someone's put something in the chat. Now I'm going to ask a really dumb question, but can everyone see the Toastmasters International website now?
No.
No. Okay, hold on. Let me change my share. And someone's put something in the chat there as well. Was that a question?
No.
Oh, no, it was just a comment. Right. That's what I thought maybe it was a question. I'll have a look. Oh, let's have a look. Here we go. Here, go. You think if you clicked on it, it would automatically come up, but it doesn't. There we go. So these are the fundraising. So it's protocol 8.2. There we go. I have lived and breathed that number 8.2, and it talks about the fundraising and your activities. So look, you know, about 90 US, so you're not exceeding that fees. But it also says here 8.2.A1.B, for some reason it gets longer and longer, but it talks about special permission. So it's really important that you look at the rules, because the worst thing that you'd want is to do a Speechcraft course and you've gone slightly outside of the rules, especially where there's money involved, and then you just get into trouble. You don't want that, because it's just awful. You don't need that headache. So yeah. Okay, I'll stop sharing now. There we go. I've even managed to go well under time. And my